at all. So, hi everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Today's session is build your course schedule faster with imports, and it's all about saving you time when setting up and managing large volumes of courses. So, if you're responsible for scheduling courses, especially during planning or seasonal periods, this session is designed to help you get through that scheduling process much faster.
Today we'll show you how to prepare your course data, how imports work in Access Planet, and how to use them safely to create or update large numbers of courses in one go. So long story short, we'll cover everything from creating your import file and understanding key import concepts through to testing your import and spotting common errors before they become problems.
Yeah, we are aiming to keep the session around 20 minutes, but before we get into that, here's a bit of housekeeping from Frank.
So it's always me. I love a bit of good housekeeping. The import tool is available as standard.
Sorry. Do. Sorry, that was my bad. I think I went too fast
Are you
there.
trigger happy again,
Trigger
Frank?
happy. There was hang on, that's for the next slide. Sorry.
Okay, so the import tool is available as standard. There are no extra modules needed to use anything that we cover today. However, the import options are limited to super admins. So if you are unable to find the importer, this is likely why. We're recording and we'll send the recording out to everyone, plus everyone who registered. So you can watch it back, send it on to your team, and if you would like. And finally, the Q&A is open throughout the session, so please ask any questions as we go. That's it for housekeeping.
Cheers, mate. So yeah, in today's session, what we'll be covering, we'll be starting with the key concepts of data import, so just kind of running you through what they are and how they, and then we'll be getting into the detail of how they work. So first things, we'll be starting with creating your course import profile, import file even. Then we'll be moving on to creating an import profile, followed by testing and running your import, and then finally common errors and how to spot them as well.
So yeah, lots to cover. Let's quickly introduce ourselves. So if you don't know me, I'm Frank. I'm one of the customer success managers here. My favorite feature, Access Planet, is quick edits. And I love cycling and exploring, but I wouldn't recommend going for a bike ride when it's -4 in the morning, like it was on Saturday, because I've got a really bad cold now.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
My name is Jamie, and I'm one of the implementation managers at Access Planet. My favorite feature personally is the API feeds, and outside work, yeah, I enjoy photography, DIY, and growing vegetables. Typical millennial, really. So on to today's session. So there are four key terms you want to be familiar with before you start running imports, and you'll see these words used throughout your platform and in our help materials. And once they click, imports become much easier to understand.
So we'll cover them in the order you actually experience them when importing. So the import file, the import destination, the import profile, and finally the import job.
Cool. So starting with the import file is simply the data that you want to bring through into your Access Planet platform. So this is usually a spreadsheet where each individual row represents an individual record, so an individual course or user that you want to create or update. And in today's case, each row in your spreadsheet is going to represent a course. So your import file contains the information Access Planet needs to create or update courses such as course aliases, the dates and times of the course, the venues, the trainers, and any other required details as well. Some fields in the file are mandatory. These are required because the platform can't create a valid course without them. If mandatory data is missing or is incorrectly formatted, the import will error, and that's intentional because it protects your data. So think of the import file as your source of truth. If the data in the file is clean and consistent here, the rest of the import process becomes much smoother.
So next we have the import destination. So the import destination tells Access Planet where this data should go in the platform. So in other words, what type of records you're importing. There are different destinations available, such as courses, users, course templates, and resources. And today we're specifically focused on the course's import destination, which funnily enough is called course states. So choosing the correct destination is important because it controls which fields are available, what validation rules apply, and how your data will be processed. So at a high level, the import file is your data, and the import destination is the area of the platform that the data will be sent to.
Yeah, perfect. And once we know what data we're importing and where it's going, we need to tell the platform how to understand that data. And that's where the import profile comes in. So an import profile is essentially a set of instructions that explains to the platform what your file looks like. This includes things like which columns you've included in your file, how to map those columns to the correct fields in Access Planet, and how the platform should interpret those values in your file as well. You only need to create an import profile once for a particular file structure. So after that, you can reuse it as many times as you would like, whenever you want to run another import with the same file with the same columns. So this is what makes import scalable. So once your profile is set up correctly, you can build large course schedules quickly and consistently without reconfiguring everything and working out every single time.
So finally, we have the import job. An import job is created every time you actually run an import using an import profile. So each job is a record of that specific import attempt, whether it's a test import or a full import. The job shows you what happened, how many records were processed, whether it was successful, and whether any errors occurred. So this is really helpful for auditing and troubleshooting because you can always look back at a job to understand exactly what imported and when. So if you remember one thing, the profile defines how your import will work, and the job shows what happened when you ran it.
Yeah, exactly. So now that we've covered those four key terms, we're ready to put them into practice. So let's move on to creating our import file. So there is a lot of data available that you can import for each scheduled course. And the good news is you can pick and choose which of these columns you actually want to use. To make this as easy as possible, we provide ready-made templates in our knowledge base, so you're not starting from scratch either.
So as Jamie covered earlier, the import file is the data you want to bring into your Access Planet platform. Each row in your spreadsheet will represent a course. So within our knowledge base, you'll find two guides to support this process, each with downloadable import files. There's a simplified version, which includes just the most commonly used fields, and a comprehensive version, which includes a much wider range of course data. So the best place to start is by accessing these guides and downloading the import template file. Choose the simplified version if it's your first time importing, or the comprehensive version if you know you'll need more detail. So these import template files are there to save you a lot of time. They're already in the format that the importer needs, with the column headers along the top.
So we'll use the comprehensive import in today's session, and the way that we do that, as Frank mentioned just there, in our help guide, you can search for import new courses or import courses, and as you saw just a moment ago, there is a simplified and a comprehensive one here. So on this page, this will run you through the entire import process. What we're looking for, step one in here, is to download the template files in here. So with that, you can download the template file that we have here. This will include all of the columns that you can import into the platform. There is a supplementary file as well, which will you can download, and it will explain each of these columns in a bit more detail as well. So next step really is to, once we've downloaded that to our PC, is to go and remove any of the columns that we don't need. So this could be data that you aren't interested in importing, such as advertised start dates, for example, or it might be something like the external IDs, or as we're going to do here. If we're not interested in having or specifying unique durations or places for our courses, and we want the details to inherit from your course template, you can delete those or leave them blank in your import, and the information will draw down from your course template. After that, it is just as simple as filling in your data.
So here are a few must-haves for your import file. So it must be saved in CSV format. This is a format the platform expects and is required for imports to run successfully. Your column headers must be in the top row of the spreadsheet, and your course data should start from row 2 onwards with one row per scheduled course. So if you are using our template, the file format will already be CSV and the column headers will already be in place.
Yeah, and finally, you must make sure that you include mandatory columns. So with each import, there are mandatory columns that you need to specify. In this one, with for course dates, course ID, which is the course template ID or the course template's name. You can use either, but the ID is better if you can use that. It's a more reliable method that the platform can check for that unique record. CC level also needs to be included as well, which is always set to 4. For these courses as well, you are obviously going to need a start date and end date as well. And just a quick side tip as well, that is a date and timestamp in there as well. So there aren't two columns for date and time there. The other one that's really important is company ID. So this is the training provider's ID as well. So that is important to put in there. Without these columns, the platform can't create valid scheduled courses. With your import file prepared, the hard work is done. So next we'll move on to into the platform and show you how to create an import profile using this file here. Create an import profile is where we tell Access Planet how to read our file and how to match each column to the correct field in the platform. Once an import profile is set up, it can be reused again, like I mentioned earlier. So this is a one-time piece of work and it saves you a lot of time in the future.
So to get started, we'll navigate to the import profiles page in the administration menu. And as we said, this option is available only to super administrators. So here we're going to give it a name so we can find it again later. And we're going to create a new import profile on this occasion. So then when we select the import destination to import courses, we're going to choose the course dates. And next we upload the import file we just prepared. And then now we move on to the mapping. So mapping is where we tell Access Planet which columns in the file corresponds to which fields in the platform. So for example, we map the course ID column in our spreadsheet to the course template ID field in Access Planet, the start date column to the course start date, and so on. So if you've used one of our downloadable templates, many of these mappings may already be suggested for you, and that will speed things up for you. So the final thing you must do here is to select your key columns. So selecting the right columns here is very important because key columns are how Access Planet knows whether it should create a new course or update an existing one. So in simple terms, key columns uniquely identify each course record in your file. So when you run an import, the platform uses these key columns to look for matching course. So if it finds one, it updates it. If it doesn't, it creates a new course. So choosing the wrong key columns can result in duplicate courses or unintended updates. So it's important to be really deliberate here. So for course imports, this is typically a combination of fields that together make each scheduled course unique, such as the course template ID and the start date. This works for us because we never have two of the same course running on one day. So the combination of the course template ID and the start date makes each course unique. So if that doesn't work for you, you need to use a combination of course template ID, start date, and venue. So once your key columns are set and everything else is mapped correctly, your import profile is ready to use.
Yeah, grand. And just one final note on key columns as well. If you can't guarantee that you'll never have two of the same courses from the same course template running at the same day, same venue, same time, you may want to use the external ID option instead. So by providing a unique code or reference for each of your scheduled courses and setting this as your key column, you can ensure that every course can be uniquely identified, preventing duplicates or unintended updates during imports. So take a look at our knowledge base for any extra guidance on this one.
So we're on to our final step now. So with your import file prepared and your import profile set up, the last thing to do is run the import job. So before importing a full course schedule, it's important to take a moment to test, especially if this is your first time using imports or if you've made changes to your file. So testing allows you to confirm that your data is mapped correctly and that the outcome in the platform looks exactly as you expect before committing to a full import.
Yeah, it's really important. And there are two ways that you can test an import. So our recommended approach is to run the import first on your Sandbox site, if you have one. This lets you test the full import file and review the completed outcome as well. So including all the course dates and statuses without any risk to your live data. If you don't have access to the sandbox, you can alternatively run a small sample import on your live site. So this means just saving a copy of your existing import file with only a few rows as a new version. So just include 2 or 3 rows and then import that to confirm that they've gone in as you would expect. And then the rest will follow suit when you run that second afterwards.
So whichever approach you choose, the key principle is the same. Test first, review the results, and then run your full import.
Yeah, exactly. So to run an import job, whether this is a test run or you are just doing a couple of rows including in your file, or you're doing the full import, you will navigate to Import Jobs page in the administration menu. So click to create a new job when we're in here. We're going to select the import profile that we created earlier. So just scrolling through until we find that one, our course schedule import there. And we're going to select that, and then we're going to choose our file and upload that from our PC. When we're happy, we click the upload button and you'll see now it has a status of queued up at the top of that list. So once it's finished importing, it will have the status of completed, as you can see here, it moves across, like these historical ones here as well. So we'll then be able to check if our course is imported successfully and check for errors as well. Before we wrap up, let's take a few minutes to look at some common import errors and more importantly, how to spot them as well. So it is important to note that seeing errors during an import is completely normal, especially when you're getting started. They are not failures. They're the platform flagging that something needs attention before it can safely create or update your data. So once you know what to look for, most errors are pretty quick and easy to resolve.
So these are the top 5 most common errors due to issues within course import files. So one of the most common errors you'll see is missing mandatory information. So this happens when a required field, such as course template ID, start date, end date, or status, hasn't been provided or hasn't been mapped correctly. And when this occurs, the import job will clearly tell you which column or field is missing. So you can go back to your file, add the data, and try again.
Similar error is missing key columns. So key columns are essential because they tell Access Planet how to uniquely identify each course. And if a required key column is missing from the file, the import can't determine whether it should create new courses or update existing ones. And in this case, you'll need to either add the column to your file or update the import profile and ensure the key columns are correctly filled in for each of the course rows that you have.
So date formatting is another area where errors can occur. So this usually happens when dates are entered in an unexpected format, such as text values or inconsistent date styles. So the import job will flag these rows so you can review the start and end dates, correct the format, and rerun the import. So using a consistent date format throughout your file helps prevent this from happening.
Really useful because you would never that would cause a mess if you were scheduling courses for the 13th month of the year there. So you may also see an error if any of your courses in your import file have an invalid course template ID. So common causes include typos, extra spaces, or using an ID from another environment, such as a sandbox or a live site, instead of a live site, sorry. So this one is pretty simple to fix. So the fix is to double check that the course template ID matches and exists within your platform, and make sure you update that in your import file moving forwards and try again.
So finally, you may see errors related to trainers or venues. This happens when the trainer or the venue referenced in the import file can't be found in the platform, so it's totally normal. The most common reasons are spelling differences, missing records, or using a resource that hasn't been created yet. So before importing, make sure all trainers and venues included in your file already exist in Access Planet and that the references match exactly.
Cool. So before we move on to our Q&A, let's have a quick recap of today's webinar. So today we have looked at the key concepts for data imports, and then we also had a look at the creating your course import file as well, what that looks like. As we say, it is on we do have help guide pages for this, both simplified and comprehensive versions as well. So do take a look at that. We'll look at creating your import profile. So this is how you can map your data in your file to the fields in Access Planet and use that repeatedly to import new courses. We're going to look at testing and running your import profile as well. So important to test to make sure that the import is going to create or update the records that we're intending it to do. And then finally, the common errors and how to spot them as well. So with that, please have a go. Submit any questions that you've got into the Q&A. And whilst they come in, here are a couple of questions that we have received before on what features we've covered today. So we'll cover those first. Do I need to launch the Q&A? I can't remember.
Not sure. Let's have a look.
Q&A. No, it's already open.
Right.
Yeah, so it's free to pop that in now if you want to. Cool. So question number one, Frank, what we going for?
You know, I love putting you to the test.
Go on.
Okay, so can I import sessional courses?
Yeah, the short answer is in this one is yes. So when you import sessional courses, you will import the parent sessional course, and it will use the session plan from the course template to automatically schedule the child courses underneath it. You can define the sessional cost type 2 for these as well. So, for example, 2 is course cost, and number 1 is sum of sessions as well. So you can do that individually.
No, great. And do I have to use your template or can I create my own file?
Yeah, so you don't have to use ours at all. You can absolutely create your own import files, and we do recommend using ours for kind of speed and ease, especially if you haven't done imports before and you just want to get used to them. But you can absolutely use your own import files, and you may want to do that as well, especially if you have created custom fields against your courses. You may want to add those into your import file so that you can import those values a bit later.
So can imports update existing courses as well as create new ones?
It absolutely can. So this is really important. So yeah, just to be really clear, imports are not just for creating new records. They can be used for updating records as well. And you can do creation and updates both in one file using the same import profile as well. And the way that the platform knows what to do is based on the key columns that you have selected. So they determine if whatever you selected there, whether it's your course ID and start date or whatever you selected external ID, the platform will check to see if it matches one of those records, and that's how it will determine. If it finds a match, it will update that record, or if it doesn't, it will create a new record.
And can we cancel or roll back an import?
So no, you can't roll back an import once it's ran, it has ran. There's nothing that we can do there. But you can stop an in-progress import. However, that will not cancel any courses or import records that you've imported before you press stop.
I guess that goes back to what we said about testing. Just
Te-
apply test with a smaller amount of data. When you're happy with it, then you
Absolutely.
can
Yeah.
go
If you
from
can
there.
on the sandbox first, absolutely do so. Otherwise, yeah, have a few small sample records imported first. Definitely.
And can multiple people use the same import profile?
Yes.
That's
Sure.
it.
Nice and simple. Yes.
And what do I do if only some rows fail?
Yeah, this is quite common actually. So you will, especially if you've got quite a few records in your import file, you might find the majority of them import absolutely fine, no problem at all. But as you can see in this example, we've got various different errors popping up with this import. What you can do is, as you can see in the bottom right here, there is a button to export your errors in a CSV file. So that gives you a file with only the rows that errored and haven't been
Hmm.
imported. What that allows you to do is using that file, you can make your corrections using the references that you see here to correct those and then run that as another import job using that same import profile because none of the columns will have changed. So
And do sandbox imports affect the live data?
no. So live and sandbox platforms are completely separate. So in no way will they update each other. I mean,
Putting you thoroughly to the test
I
here,
know
as
we've got
usual.
another one as well.
Yeah.
Still popping.
Is there a limit to how many courses we can import at once?
Yeah, our recommendation is ideally no more than about 10,000 £10,000, 10,000 rows per file. Technically, you can go up to a max of 50,000 per file, but this should be run for out of business hours, basically. And the reason that we don't recommend it is because if for whatever reason you do have a lot of errors in that import file. It takes obviously quite a while to process and highlight those errors, and it can slow the platform down a little bit as well. It does also mean that exporting your error file gets messy because obviously you've got a load of errors to fix, and yeah, it's not recommended. So try and keep your import files small and do them in batches where possible.
Yeah, do less, but just do it more often.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So where can we find help after this session?
As always, yeah, the knowledge base is there. So, as Frank alluded to before, we have guides on importing pretty much everything in Access Planet as well. So, today we've run through courses, but there are obviously other objects that you can import there. You will find guides for each, both with simplified import files as well. If you just want a quick and easy import, you can use those files, but also we have our comprehensive files as well. That will give you a full list of everything that you can import minus your custom fields so far. So is that the end of the grilling?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
all
I mean,
right.
yeah, I mean, we've not got any questions, so it's been a
Hold on, let me check. Let me check. Oh, there
well,
is.
not grilled you. It's me, not grilled you
Oh,
enough then.
it's all right. Oh, Jamie, hi, nice to see you. So, can multiple people process data load up imports at the same time, and can multiple users process using the same data load profile at the same time? The short answer is no, but yes. Hope that makes sense. The reason for that is you can queue up imports. So you multiple different users can use the same import profile. You can set up and queue up an import, but the platform will only process one import file at a time. So if Jamie, you set one off first, you would see that in the queue, and it would start processing that. Another admin could queue up the same import, same profile, different file, whatever. But that would be queued next, and you'd see that. Wait, I forgot what the status was now. It was queued, and once your file is done processing, it will move on to the next one after that. Um, Not a question, but we need to be careful with the venue ID. A member of the team entered the resource ID in onto the spreadsheet during an import instead of the venue ID. The courses were still created, but missing venues rather than an error. So yeah, this is a good point actually. Probably alludes to one of the reasons a good reason to download our template files that we have on the help guide. They do our templated ones. We do have one that explains what each of the columns should map to in the platform. And I think the example that you give there, yeah, resource ID instead of venue ID is picked up in there as well. So really good one. If you're ever unsure, check the help guide, or if you want a bit further help, just contact our support team as well. We're more than happy to run you through anything that you need to there. So cool. I think that's everything.
Yeah, let's leave it there for questions, mate.
Yeah, no worries.
You pass the test.
Should hope so. So thank you all so much for joining us for this session today. Really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, have a lovely day, everybody.
Thanks for now. See you again.